Welcome on into an extra special live edition of the Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, the purveyor of the Too Deep Zone, Mike Tanier, and a cast of thousands filling the room here on Substack Live. Mike, a momentous news week, a momentous news day feels like the perfect opportunity to just go ahead, flick the switch, do it live, and welcome the people on into the podcast today.
A momentous news last 25 minutes. Pretty excited.
We really lucked into this because there have been many times where we've recorded a podcast and then there's a big signing or a trade that happens 20 minutes after publication or at least after we go off live. But the Giants make the news of the day, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But if you enjoyed the podcast, a little bit of housekeeping for you. Please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us a 5-star review and rating. Those ratings really do help grow the show. And whatever you write in those 5-star reviews, we will read it on the air on the show the following week. Please subscribe to the Too Deep Zone on Substack if you enjoy Mike Tanier's exclusive blend and brand of deep dive analysis, analytic interpretations, Superman and superhero jokes and comparisons, the whole kit and caboodle in one elite place. Subscribe to the Too Deep Zone on Substack. And of course, you can subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well. Mike, just a busy, a chaotic NFL Sunday, followed now by a pretty big news-breaking Tuesday as the New York Giants announced the move from Russell Wilson to Jaxson Dart a week earlier than you and I might have expected, but Dart Mania has arrived.
The fuse is lit. The fuse is lit either on the start of Jaxson Dart's illustrious career or the end of Brian Daboll's career with the Giants, or both. Going to tell you right now, I'm a little upset. As of about 11:30, I was putting the finishing touches on a mailbag filled with Russell Wilson, Jaxson Dart questions. And I was basing everything off of yesterday's Daboll mutterings. His mutterings of kind of, sort of, maybe we're evaluating everyone. But now I got some editing to do.
For sure. And, just the quick dive into what this means and how we got here. My big question right out of the chute is, what exactly was the point of playing Russell Wilson for those first 2 games anyway? If Jaxson Dart did what he did during training camp, and people were so excited by Jaxson Dart and what he did in the summer and what he did in the preseason, if you were so excited in that Giants building by Jaxson Dart, what was the point of sitting him against the Commanders, against a pedestrian Cowboys pass rush, and against the Kansas City Chiefs in primetime? Was it really just about getting Andrew Thomas back and healthy? Was it just, are we going to wait until the All-Pro is back and on the field to throw Jaxson Dart out there? Because Russell Wilson, 0-2, 59.1 completion percentage, 778 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 3 losses, including a very dismal showing against a very vulnerable and beatable Chiefs team. Mike, what was the point?
Well, we can make all these sort of reverse engineered hypotheses about Andrew Thomas, or we're not going to give him the start in Big D because that would be panicky, or against the Chiefs because that would cause panicky in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. He's going out there against a 3-0 Chargers team, the Jesse Minard defense, a very strong Chargers team. This is not like a soft landing spot by right. Next week would be the soft landing, except after that, I think it's Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, or Eagles, Vikings, Eagles. I forget what it is. So there's no soft landing spot. Hey, you want to do something so you won't look stupid? Do something so you won't look stupid. You'll end up looking stupid. Do things so you'll end up being smart. Be proactive. Be forward thinking. If you're like, well, I'm just going to throw Russell Wilson out there for a few weeks so I look like I'm patient and I'm conservative and I'm making decisions, and that's going to make me look like the smarter, shrewder coach. It doesn't. It makes you look like you were procrastinating, like you could not make up your mind. And now we're 3 weeks into this, and we're exactly where we thought we'd be 3 weeks into this. Russ, let's watch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the Chargers, they come in with the 11th ranked passing defense in the league. So as you said, this is not the soft landing. Bo Nix, they held under wraps, 153 yards and a touchdown. He's still at an 87.6 passer rating, obviously a losing effort for the Broncos. But I guess you throw him out there in front of the home crowd. You get Andrew Thomas back. Oh, by the way, Tyrone Tracy's banged up, so you're not going to have one of your top running backs out there. I'm not going to say it's a panic move for Brian Daboll and the Giants, because the other side of me is arguing that if the kid is ready, you play the kid. But if you're the Giants, it's now okay. You've tied yourself to this horse. Your future
Right.
as the Giants head coach is now tied to Jaxson Dart's trajectory the rest of the way. And I don't know about you, but based on what I've seen from this offense, I don't know how much higher Jaxson Dart can raise the ceiling. He's got to be, more efficient at connecting with Malik Neighbors, but he's certainly not lowering the floor on what we saw in that fourth quarter from Russell Wilson on Sunday night.
Yeah, what did you think of the end of that fourth quarter?
Um, the four throws to the turf in the end zone and the tunnel monster at MetLife, I give you guys a chance. You know what I mean? And then Russell comes out the next day and says, "Oh, you got to block out the noise and this, that, and the other thing."
Yeah.
It just seemed like by at that point in the game, at that point of the season, I think maybe even Russell Wilson had come to grips with, "Hey, this offense isn't working. I'm going to go collect a check and put on the hat and put in the earpiece and be a spectator."
The best part of it, like I watched it and I was like mystified. I was perplexed. The next day I'm on a radio show and they're talking about the intentional grounding penalty. And the 3 plays after the intentional grounding penalty, which were 2 throws through the back of the end zone and the draw play.
Yes.
The draw play. They were so bad, I forgot he drew an intentional grounding penalty. Like normally, if you're in that situation, he threw the ball so far into the tunnel that they drew intentional grounding. That would be the part that stuck in my head. I forgot about it because 3 other things happened that were equally or more stupid afterwards than that. And you're right, that might have been a little bit of a thing here. Like, okay, Russ is in paycheck mode right now. Whatever the competitor was, it is evaporating before your eyes. He's now out there trying to avoid hits, trying to keep the stats looking good, which is a situation they had in Denver as well. So, but here we are now with Jaxson Dart. Ready or not, Daboll's playing the last card. This is the last card.
Mark checks in the chat. There's less pressure on Dart now. He doesn't have the possibility of a competent veteran looming over him. We've seen that doesn't exist. I guess that's true. I mean, I guess you saw that because I think that what bothered me most about the end of that game is how the rest of that game played out. You're watching this Chiefs offense and Travis Kelce is having balls bounce off his hand. Patrick Mahomes is underthrowing Travis Kelce by 2.5 yards on a simple out route to the sideline. He's not connecting early with Thornton. They're not getting anything going. The Chiefs were there for the taking. The Giants defense was keeping them close enough in that game that a competent quarterback and a competent offense might have been able to pull off the upset. The competent veteran wasn't there. Just before we went on the air, Mike, I reached out to a handful of people, and an AFC scouting director just got back to me. He said, quote, "Jaxson Dart is a talented athlete who flashes arm talent. He takes some chances, doesn't have the arm strength to win on those gambles, but also how he handles adversity will be critical. Last year's Florida game was a complete and total meltdown mentally. And by the way, Oxford is not New York," unquote. So that's kind of what he's up against, which goes back to my theory of holding Jaxson Dart until you're back in New Orleans against arguably the worst defense and the worst team in the league in the New Orleans Saints. Cut down on the adversity, kind of build the kid's confidence. But I think Brian Daboll felt that he was left no choice after Sunday night but to make this move.
Also, where is Jameis? Where's Jameis? Where's Jameis? I mean, I'm not advocating it, but that's sitting there as a possible solution. But I think that scouting director, that goes with things I saw, where if you were watching Dart against Arkansas or against like the weaker opponents, he looked like the best thing since Andrew Luck, absolutely, honestly. And then if you saw Florida, Georgia, there was another real powerhouse on their schedule. He could not move the ball at all. And I don't know if he lost his composure. I don't know if it was that type of thing, but he was taking hits and he wasn't able to fit the ball. And so we're going to see who he is. Because no matter what now, over the next couple of weeks, he's in New York. He's going to take losses in New York. He's probably going to, after a victory, get the Sam Chise treatment. He's going to get a nickname. He's going to get all that stuff, and then he's going to lose it. And that's the kind of stuff that has to get managed in New York. And I'll tell you who I don't trust at this point to manage that at all. It's Brian Daboll.
No, not at all. And, you think about it, we don't have to look that far. Mike White was the great white hope for the Jets a couple of years ago.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Oh, my God. Well, there was the Sandwichize and the Sandchize, and I'm guessing Chris Streveler had a nickname at some point for a few minutes there. But here's a question. What do you do with Russ now?
Man, I don't know what you do. You like, do you start fielding calls? Because I mean,
From who? From who?
you got me. You got me. But I mean, if you can just unceremoniously dismiss Daniel Jones by benching him, making him the scout team safety, and then granting his request to be released, well, you got to do something. I don't think that Russell Wilson is the kind and gentle mentor type that Russell Wilson would relish, or Jameis Winston rather would relish being. Jameis he exudes those vibes. Jameis seems like he knows what he signed up for. You know, going to New York on that 2-year deal. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, Russell Wilson just does not seem like he's the type of guy who's going to sit back, hold the clipboard, and when Dart comes running off the field, be there to meet him with the Polaroids and say, "Hey, here's what you missed."
And I can't 100% blame him on that. The thing is, now that it's gone, if they have the mutual decision to walk away, that might be the best for everybody, because it's not really logical to say, oh, now you have to be this guy, and you're not a team player if you're not this guy. You got a Super Bowl ring, you've got Pro Bowls, you've got all these other accolades, you've got Ciara. The phone calls will come from like reality shows looking for a host.
Yeah.
That's where they're come from. So it might be
58 or whatever it is. It'll be a Big Brother next year, right?
Right, or whatever.
Survivor. Put him on an island, Russ Island. He can throw moonballs on Russ Island on Survivor.
Love Island with Russ and Ciara.
There you go. Let them host.
It's done. It's good. It's watchable. It clicks, baby. The Giants offense don't click, but that clicks.
Speaking of Love Island, the NFC North, that race kind of got turned on its ears, and it's become a love-hate relationship, I think, in terms of what the Packers are or what they aren't, what the Detroit Lions are or what they aren't. And, of course, you saw Isaiah Rodgers just completely take over the game with the greatest performance ever by a defensive back in NFL history against Jake Browning and the fighting Cincinnati Bengals, running out the clock on Zach Taylor. But when you just look at the two teams at the top of the division right now, where are you at on the Lions and where are you at on the Packers? Because it feels like Monday night in Baltimore, based on what happened on Sunday afternoon in Cleveland, Mike, maybe that script flipped just a little bit.
It rebooted. We slapped the side of the NFC North and it rebooted. It's rebooted in factory specification mode now after week 1, after the Parsons trade. We are back to, the Lions are those guys. They are that team. The culture matters. The infrastructure matters. Campbell matters. Goff is better than all the smart outs say he is, et cetera, et cetera. And we've rebooted the Packers on Packers are a playoff team. Yes, Parsons has improved them. Yes, there are still problems. Yes, this is not perfect. And they're the two teams at the top. And we've even rebooted the Vikings that, they've got their backup quarterback out there and they're playing well, which is pretty much Vikings to fall. So they've been reset.
For sure, I talked about this on the nightcap recap with Joe Stazak late on Sunday night, early Monday morning. It has become autopilot quarterbacking in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. Carson Wentz, it almost doesn't matter. As long as you're semi-competent, you're going to do fine, especially with Brian Flores' defense. You know, if you had to ask me, am I in or out on the Lions or the Packers? And you know how optimistic I've been about Green Bay, how much higher I felt Micah Parsons lifted their ceiling, that they might be the legitimate biggest threat to the Eagles, if not already the team to beat in the NFC. After what I saw Monday night in Baltimore, what I saw the Lions do, I feel like I'm shifting back towards riding with the fighting Dan Campbells, because when you can run the ball the way they did, and against, I know that the Ravens defense was banged up, but Mike Green was still there. And he had a couple big impact plays where there were impact plays to be had. But Jahmyr Gibbs, 67 yards, 2 scores, really the focal point of that offense. David Montgomery, 151 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 12.6 yards per carry. I know he had the 2 chunk plays, but it felt like 5 yards, 12 yards, 57 yards, 5 yards, 13 yards. Every play was a chunk play. When you can do that, and when you can play defense the way they did against that roster and that quarterback, man, it just feels like they've somehow figured it out again in Detroit.
Both teams are for real. That's it. And the Lions gave us all these reasons for pessimism with their injuries and not adding guys, and then losing in week 1. It's like, okay, we were pessimistic. Packers gave us all these reasons for optimism with the Parsons trade, big week 1 win, big week 2 win. Okay, Golden's playing well. And we got maybe slightly over-optimistic, but there's no reason to not still be optimistic for that team. and they're both going to be very, very good. And it's like, all right, here we are again. With that particular division, you can start crossing teams off the bottom. I don't think the Bears are going anywhere, so you can start crossing those off. But that's where we are with these teams. By the way, last night, you saw the touchdown that was the little pitch to Amon St. Brown, and then he pitched it to...
I have the 3 TVs in the command center for Sunday. I toyed with the idea of, during the podcast, just having that play on replay on all 3 so that I could watch it and relive the joy of it over and over again. Just a thing of beauty.
I loved it. I can't wait to watch a bad team try it. I cannot wait to see the Giants version of that. I can't wait to see the Tennessee Titans version of that. There are going to be balls bouncing all over the Lord's creation as they try to replicate that play instead of running like a quarterback sneak. Absolutely phenomenal play. By the way, I did see you on your Sunday night podcast with your sniffer of whiskey in your hand.
Yes.
I see how it is. I see how the sausage gets made.
Open invite to you. But I know that Sundays are chaotic for both of us writing the column. If you tell me any Sunday you want to jump on, you're on the marquee. It is the Between the Hashmarks podcast with Lombardo and Tanier. If Tanier wants to join, come on over.
To be clear, after Jordan Davis's blocked kick return, we put up a round of shots at the bar. I could not have had another glass of whiskey at like 10 o'clock at night. That would have been it. It would have been more typo than article on Monday morning. So it could not have been done.
No doubt about it. But what a great, the image of them actually designing that play, where the initial handoff to St. Brown, Jared Goff handed him the ball vertically, so it could be an easier pitch on the run. Just to think that with that level of detail, that a good team is going to practice it like that. You brought up, the bad team running it. My mind eventually automatically goes back to when the Wildcat was taking the NFL by storm, and I was covering the Eagles for NJ.com, and at Lincoln Financial Field, I happened to watch the Eagles try to run the Wildcat, and the backwards pass that went like 4 yards back behind the line of scrimmage just seemed like it was a complete and total mess. You're right. It's going to be like football follies when Zach Taylor gets his hands on this play.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We're going to put Jamar Chase in the backfield. We're going to have him pitch it to Chase Brown. No, just throw a bomb. Just throw a bomb to Chase. Don't try this. Don't try this at home, people.
For sure. And Monday night was a fireworks show of a way to end what was really a thrilling, chaotic, insane NFL Sunday. But going into it, I have to coin the nickname. It's Mike Stradamus here, because I think it was last Wednesday. You write this really in-depth, deep dive feature, which is really the trademark of the Two Deep Zone. If we get down to brass tacks, it's not just that you're the best in the business. It's that you're the best in the business at putting together stories like this, where you take the analytics, the stats, and you weave this narrative together like you did with the kickoffs and how the kickoff rule was making it a play again. And all of a sudden Sunday, we get Jalen Lane with a kickoff return for a touchdown in Washington for the Commanders. And you get a 95-yard Torrey Horton kickoff return for a touchdown for the Seahawks. The NFL is getting what they wanted. And if they haven't called you to join the panel of script writers, maybe they should.
Oh, I would love you. Please let me do the wrestling scripts for the NFL. But thank you very much. And Debo had a long return also for the Commanders, and he wound up as the cover person on that. And then the flip side of that, because what we're talking about is, yes, you're seeing all kind of diversity of strategy right now. Where, Debo Samuel, he's a kickoff returner again. We're not like saving him for offense because that's an important play. And then you have the Eagles. And block kicks and everything aside, but when the Eagles are trying to do a kickoff return, it was hilariously bad. Tank Bigsby looked like he was a toddler trying to chase a squirrel around in the backyard. It was tough. Falcons had the same problem. The Falcons have Ray McLeod, who's been returning kicks since like 2018, and he can't return these kickoffs. And what you're seeing is some teams have like their kickers are like, I guess it's a sand wedge. You golf, like if you're trying to drop like a floppy doodle like shot onto like a wet green, what do you use?
It's like a lob wedge, right? Like a lob wedge, get a lot of height and have it just stick it. And Josh Carty was just, I talked to a special teams coach over the summer, and he said, look, we had plays drawn up as the kicker on how to defeat this thing. You have to land it in certain spots, and it has to be a certain, launch angle coming off the tee to make it happen. It seems like the Rams, I wrote this in the column, Mike, it's like for the first half of that game, they decided that they were not only going to follow the Eagles' owner's manual of complementary football, but they wrote the special teams addendum because Cardi became a legitimate weapon. He became an actual component of the game because they buried the Eagles from a field position standpoint at every opportunity they could because of the squib kick strategy.
And he did the same thing against the Texans. You go back to the Texans game, I think they were at the 15-yard line a couple of times where they're wobbling it in there. Looks like the Panthers guy also has a wobbler in there, and different kickers have different things. It's got to be a skill that not everyone has mastered, that some are better at than others, that some have been taught to do a different way than others. And I'll flip this around in the kick returners. I mentioned that, Ray McLeod couldn't do it. Tank Bigsby's been returning kicks for a couple of years. Wasn't able to do it. Turpin has some big returns for the Cowboys, but he has a couple fumble dumbles, too. When are football players taught to catch a bouncing ball ever?
Well, I'll tell you this. My football career ended at 95 pounds, Pop Warner.
Okay.
I was essentially the tight end. And we were not taught to catch bouncing kicks or bouncing punts or how to recover bouncing balls. So, unless it's changed in the last 28 years, 30 years, whatever it's been, I don't know that it was ever taught.
We've watched special teams return drills for years. Now, granted, we are always texting and tweeting during the special teams returns, but we are there. And of course, the kicker and the punter are practicing their long kicks and punts, or they're using a machine, and the guys are catching them in the air. You catch punts in the air, you catch field goals in the air. I mean, kickoff returns in the air. Obviously, you catch interceptions and passes in the air. Defenses will sometimes do a fumble recovery drill every once in a while, so you're picking up a loose ball. I always looked at that. First of all, it'd be 5 minutes during the course of the entire practice, and I always thought that was a morale booster. Yeah. Oh, we screamed a touchdown, and the guys high five and they shout at each other if they bobble it or whatever.
So ends 5 minutes early tomorrow. Yay!
Yeah. If you recover this cleanly, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of like how the fumble return drills work. So now kickoff returners are catching on one hop.
Yeah.
Like they have to be short stops.
Right. And they're just not equipped to do it.
Right.
They haven't guys that are equipped to do it.
Yeah, they haven't practiced it. I'm sure they practiced it in spring and summer, but they didn't practice it when they were 19 or whatever. So we're going to have an adjustment period to it, and that's going to be really fascinating.
And a lot to get into in that Eagles game. We'll get into the offense and how it came alive late. But Kyle Lutz checks in the chat, says, Mike, what do you think of the Eagles blocking 2 field goals? The first time in exactly 50 years, Bill Bergey blocked 2 field goal attempts and an extra point back in 1975. A little bit of history there for my guy, Kyle Lutz.
Well, Kyle, I know you are younger than me, so I don't know where the Bill Bergey fact came from, but I love it. I love it. I love to hear it. I don't remember that, and I'm very old. But 2 field goals, first time since Bill Bergey. Obviously, you're based in the Philadelphia area, Matt. Absolute pandemonium. You'll love to say it was a fluky win when you get right down to it. There's a fluky element to it, but the Eagles were in that game because they went down 23-6. Did not throw in the towel. Found adjustments, found A.J. Brown, who I know we want to talk about A.J. Brown a little bit, rediscovered him, hiding in plain sight in the offense, also made big stops on defense, and you put yourself in a position to to roll a crit, to roll a natural 20, and to get that fake kick, block kick.
For sure. And I think that what that game really showed is I think that it proved a couple of narratives as close to fact as you're going to get. The big picture, defense can still win you a championship, right? Because, Vic Fangio's defense, it bent, it buckled, but it didn't break you. They held the Rams to 4 field goal attempts in the first half. That game could have gotten out of hand really, really quickly to the point that the Eagles wouldn't have been able to come back. But I also think it reinforces the fact that A.J. Brown, not Saquon Barkley, not Devonta Smith, maybe not even Jalen Hurts, But A.J. Brown is the most important offensive player on that Philadelphia Eagles roster because you think back to a year ago when he was out against Tampa Bay, the offense looked completely out of sync. You look at what happened on Sunday for the first half, really 2.5, 3/4 of that game, the offense really looked out of sync. But all it took was that 38-yard bomb to get him involved. 2 plays later, it's a 33-yard strike down the seam to Dallas Goedert for the touchdown. I spoke to an AFC scout afterwards, and he told me, quote, A.J. Brown is so big, so fast, so strong that Philly gets blown out if he doesn't make that one big play in the second half. I think he's right. They really should get him the ball more. They should get him the ball a lot more, unquote.
Yeah, and Tom Brady was saying the same thing during the broadcast. I'm going to try and do my Brady voice here. It really doesn't have to be that complicated. Tom Brady sounds a little bit like David Lynch. It's what you got to go way up in the nostrils here. He's so much bigger and stronger than the guy covering him. You just get the ball up there. Just put the ball on his hands and see if he can make the play. And really, that is it. And I think there's been a reluctance so far this season to do the obvious. And I don't know if that's a Jalen Hurts or Greg Caputo or Fitz Sirianni, or just that every year they add 27 new wrinkles to the offense because there's a new coordinator. Put the ball up for A.J. Brown. And worry about if he's getting covered by Jalen Ramsey or somebody like that when he's getting covered by Jalen Ramsey. Until then, it's Emmanuel Phil Forbes. Put the ball up there. And that opens everything else up. Now, I was talking on Aaron Schatz's podcast, and on that one play, that first play you're talking about, it was twins to the right, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in the slot, 2 tight ends on the left, shotgun. I think it was shotgun. I don't recall. But like Barkley in the backfield. In the old days, it would have been Swift or somebody in the backfield or Sanders. That's hard to stop. If you're going to throw the ball deep up the sideline to Brown or have him do a scissors or some other thing and then make it committee, that's going to be hard to stop. If you run the ball to the right with Saquon, it's going to be hard to stop. If you're doing zone read, it's going to be hard to stop. You don't have to have 27 pieces of motion and empty backfields and all of these other things when you have this personnel. You can have a relatively stripped-down playbook that's instinctive and adjustments can be made at the line of scrimmage, and you can beat most opponents with that if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm hoping that what we saw in the second half is the time we're going to see more of that in the weeks to come.
For sure. And, it just seems like if A.J. Brown is that vital to what they do, if the big play opens up so much of it, I don't understand the concept of committing to the run as aggressively as they were trying to do on Sunday without loosening up the safeties over the top, without making the linebackers respect the middle of the field, especially when you're looking at a situation where Saquon Barkley through 3 weeks, averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Sunday, he averaged 2.6 yards per carry. He has 58 carries, 194 yards. It was always going to look a little bit different going into this year because teams are going to sell out to take Saquon Barkley away. But if they're doing that and it becomes apparent early on that you're not going to beat them with Saquon Barkley, you need to start going over the top earlier on to A.J. Brown, not only to get A.J. Brown involved, but to kind of unlock everything else that you do really well.
Yeah, and there are things that the Eagles just don't do much still, like play-action passing. It's like you can do a play-action pass. You can do a play-action zone read where they're worried about both Barkley and Hurts running, and then you can take the ball over the top. Again, some of this stuff is relatively primitive, and I'm shocked that it's not in the offense right now. But let's see, maybe that was a sign of things to come. And it's like, let's keep it simple. Let's get the ball to our playmakers. Hey, Barkley can run outside, too. I mean, the number of times where it's like, okay, we're just going to go like right between the guard and the tackle here with Barkley and see if there's like a 15-yard hole waiting for him. I don't know. At some point, you have to say, no, there was always creativity in that running game. That has to come back.
For sure. And I think that when you look at what the Eagles are right now, you asked the question in the outline, are they the worst 3-0 defending champions ever? I don't know that I'm ready to go there, only because I think that defensively they have a lot of things that you're still trying to figure out. But that defense is playing at a really high level. They're getting stops inside the red zone. They're manufacturing pressure without a really dominant individual pass rusher. And they're 3-0. They're finding ways to win. It's hard to win in the NFL. It's not college where you have to blow teams out 42-7 to, put together style points to impress the playoff committee and all those things. They're undefeated. The biggest test so far to me is going to be Sunday in Tampa. because I look at what the Buccaneers are doing. Baker Mayfield's playing at an elite level. Mike Evans is playing really well. Emeka Egbuka looks like he's arriving ahead of schedule, not just as a luxury piece, but as a legitimate weapon. And that defense, they'll pressure you all day. Todd Bowles does not give a damn about pressuring on 62% of snaps. He knows his guys are going to get home, and his safeties and his defensive backs are good enough that when they don't, he's still going to force you into a mistake. So I think that Sunday's a big litmus test barometer game for both the Eagles and the NFC race. But that offense is going to have to start pulling its weight a little bit if you're going to think about them making a long playoff run.
Also, Tampa is mortar for the Eagles. You can go back for years, and Tampa is where the nightmares tend to happen. Last year, there was a nightmare in Tampa. Got to check the injury report on Evans. Got to check the injury report on Lane Johnson. Is that correct? That's a situation that's still developing right now.
Shoulder and neck, I believe, for Lane Johnson. Evans left the game early, but even so, Egbuka looks like he is the real deal. And I know it's hard to win with just one receiver, but they run the ball really well with Bucky Irving. They run the ball really well overall. They still have Cade Otton. They still have, Baker Mayfield and his mobility and manufacturing plays. And it's just the idea of going down to Tampa in 94-degree weather and 107% humidity. It just feels like this is a spot for a Buccaneers team that's itching to make a statement, to maybe get a scalp to hang on their wall.
Right. And all I can say about that right now is nobody's perfect in the NFC. Nobody's perfect in the NFC. Buccaneers are winning. They're winning these games at the end with like miracles every single week. That's not a detriment, but like if you're going to say, oh, Eagles are only winning close games, Buccaneers are only winning close games. Lions looked like they took a knockout punch in week one. They're back. Packers looked unstoppable. They've fallen by the wayside. There's no Bills. There are no Buffalo Bills in the NFC. So go out there with your flawed selves. Try to mask your flaws. Try to accentuate your strength. Eagles and like 4 or 5 other teams are in position to do that and do that all the way to a Super Bowl.
For sure. And, it's going to be a fascinating race to see develop because you have the Packers, you have the Lions that are picking up steam, the Bucs are the Bucs, the Commanders. Look, I was impressed by what Washington did, not because it was the Raiders, but the fact that they won in all 3 phases without Jaden Daniels. And you're starting to see Jalen Lane make really, legitimate, tangible contributions. You're seeing Brian Rodriguez emerge. You're seeing the 6th-round running back, Bill emerge as a complementary weapon. The defense is playing really, really well. People were really quick to write off the Commanders after that loss in Lambeau. Not so fast, my friend. I still think Washington belongs in that conversation. There aren't any elite teams, but I think there are a lot of really good teams that are going to make it a compelling race for the entirety of the 17-game season.
Including the Rams, who are kicking the snot out of the Eagles through 2.5 quarters and made some mistakes on their end. Otherwise, they'd be talking about them as a 3-0 team. And I don't want to rule out the 49ers, although...
you don't want to rule them. You of all people aren't ready to write them off.
I'm gonna cue the MASH theme here and just start singing it. Hawkeye, BJ, and Colonel Potter are going to rule them out right now. Credit to them for the effort they're doing. I can't see it now. With Bosa gone, it's a bridge too far in a very tough division. But okay, we'll see.
Yeah, and losing your top pass rusher, that's never good for anybody. Brandon Ayuk's still working his way back. Jawan Jennings didn't play on Sunday afternoon. I will say, I like the balance. I like the fact that they're not running Christian McCaffrey into the ground, but he still finds a way to post 140 yards from scrimmage. He's still a major factor there. And Ricky Pearsall. Whether Ayuk comes back or not, whether Jennings comes back or not, Ricky Pearsall might be wide receiver 1. 8 catches, 117 yards, has a 34-yard play, has another catch of 15-plus yards. I don't know if it's going to be Brock Purdy or Mac Jones this week. It sounds like Purdy might be coming back.
Yeah.
Are they healthy enough to withstand it? I guess that's going to be the biggest question for them.
I like the balance in that they don't really have an offense, but their opponents don't really have an offense. And that's how they're winning the games right now, where you go out there, the Seahawks, you get into a muck fest, the Saints, you get into a rock fight, and the Cardinals, you wait around for the Cardinals to implode, and that's how you win the game. I don't know. I'm looking up ahead. Jacksonville is going to be an interesting litmus test for the Niners this week. Talk about a self-destructive team. You can get them to trip over their own feet. Then you go at Rams, at Buccaneers. Okay, maybe you're 4-2 coming out of those, and Ayuk is coming back. We'll see. It looks like fate itself is trying to play its hand against this team.
As it has for the last couple of years, right? Hasn't the storyline the last 2 years been, is the attrition going to catch up to them? Are they going to be able to overcome the injuries? Is playing that many games as they have the last 3 years, runs to the Super Bowl with the conference title game, going to catch up to them? We thought it would have been a year ago, and it was. Maybe there's just too much attrition, too many injuries, and it's kind of a reload cycle for John Lynch and the 49ers right now.
They were the healthiest team in the NFL when they went to the Super Bowl. It's like they sold their soul and said, Satan, we sold our soul for the health that we need to be leading in overtime in the Super Bowl. And Satan was like, you got it. You got it. Airtight.
You don't even want the trophy? You don't even want the
airtight. No. The way you said it was perfect. I can't find a flaw in your reasoning. No problem. And I'm not going to injure all of your players for 2 years after that. You good work, Kyle. Genius. No notes.
But here's the thing. We talk about the mash unit, right? We talk about the injuries. We talk about losing your top pass rusher. We talk about the revolving door quarterback. Mike, they're 3-0. And the Cardinals look like they took their best shot, and their best shot was playing decent defense, forcing a couple turnovers, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. dropping an infield fly rule, right? And that's just what they are.
Yes, infield fly. Can I just say this? I have to say this to Aaron. I know if I'm on Jared's podcast or whatever, the Cardinals are bad. The Cardinals are not a good football team. Stop thinking it. Stop going with like your weird priors about DVOA projections or look at all the guys they signed. Or, if everyone develops right now and Marvin Harrison Jr. decides he really wants to play football and not just like be a fail son, it's not happening. They barely beat the Saints. The Saints went on to lose by 97 points. The Saints can't cover a punt return, and the Cardinals played them to the absolute wall. It's not a good team, not a good team, not a good team. I'm tired of hearing about them. You don't watch the games. None of you are watching the games. I'm calling it right now.
I saw the game. I was watching it on Sunday afternoon. It was there were three. My favorite kind of NFL Sunday is when there's only 3 4:00 games, or at least 3 meaningful 4:00 games that matter, because I have 3 TVs. So I don't have to mess around with the red zone on one of them. I can actually watch all 3. Got to do that with the 49ers. The Cardinals put the fear of God into them, and then Marvin Harrison decided that he has 3 left hands.
They put the fear of God into Mac Jones and Chungus or whatever the guy that the 5th-string tight end's name is, and Ricky Pearsall and Kendrick Bourne and Marquez Scantling and all these backups, and like, we're taking it to them. We got a 2-point lead. Okay, you were watching Broncos Chargers.
Yeah.
And you were watching Bears Cowboys like everybody else was, and sort of tutting and ho-hoing around. And you were looking over from time to time to check the score on the third one. You were. Admit it.
You know me too damn well.
I know everyone. It's human nature. No one's like, I got to watch Mac Jones versus Kyler Murray today. Kyler Murray's father was not watching that game. He was watching. He was like, I wonder what Caleb Williams is up to. I got to see that.
That said, the toughest opponents, the rest on the schedule, they still have the Falcons, who decided they no longer want to play football. They have Jaxson Dart in New York. They have the Cardinals again. They have the Panthers, which they got the benefit of the Falcons deciding they don't want to play football anymore. Yes, they have the Brown. They have Jim Schwartz's defense in Cleveland, but they have Tennessee. They have the Bears. They have a rematch with Seattle the last week of the year. You might be looking at this as a 13-4 49ers football team just by the graces of the schedule and then finding a way to figure it out. And we all get to pull our hair out again in January trying to figure out how did this team do what it did. It's because that division stinks. You're right. The division stinks. It stinks. It's terrible.
The team you have to watch out for is the Rams, and the other team you have to watch out for is the Seahawks, who I don't think are a great team by any stretch of imagination. 2 convincing wins, 1 against a waiver wire and matching helmets, the New Orleans Saints. But they're healthy, and they have a stout defense, and they're starting to figure things out on offense. But I think the team you want to see coming out of that division, watch the Rams. The Rams kind of coughed it up this week. I think they're a solid overall team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Rams are the sleeper. I think the Seahawks have the picks there, the pieces there.
Mhm.
I want to go back to the AFC, and one of the teams that we've talked about as one of the best teams in football, probably dating back, to the summertime, and maybe even to free agency after the draft, thinking they have one of the deepest rosters in football. That's the Baltimore Ravens. They're now 1-2.
Yeah.
Or 2-1 rather, and I don't know 1-2.
1-2. 1-2.
Stick with the brain. So the brain was right the first time. The Ravens are 1-2, but they have all of these pieces, and they have Lamar Jackson. But I don't know what to make of them when they let what happened to them happen to them in their own building last night.
Here's a couple of things. One is there's a Derrick Henry problem right now.
Yeah, big time.
Getting washed comes in all shapes and sizes. You do not know how the wash monster will come. It might come in the form of fumbles. And Henry is 3 for 3 with fumbles over the last 3 weeks. That is a legitimate concern. His fumbles were big contributors to both of their losses. So this is a team that can win without Henry. They've got other running backs. If Henry is not that guy anymore, they were good without him in the past. They can be without him in the future. I don't know how you even approach this, because I can't imagine sitting in the offensive coordinator room saying, "Yeah, maybe we should bench Derrick Henry." Those words could not leave my lips.
No. But you know what you do? Inside of 6 minutes, if you're leading, those handoffs go to Justice Hill until proven otherwise. Right? I mean, if you ride Derrick Henry for 3 quarters, maybe this is the magic formula to keep Derrick Henry fresh into January when you need him most too, is, hey, fourth quarter time, it used to be the rock hammer of Derrick Henry. Well, we're going to give it to Justice Hill. Until you earn those carries back, until you can go weeks without fumbling, it's Hill time. Forget Miller time. It's Hill time.
You don't sell that to him or everyone else in the roster that way. You sell it the way you said it. We're keeping him fresh right now. Those carries can go to anybody. Hill's a veteran. Okay, we're keeping Henry fresh for January. Derek, we're keeping you fresh for January. And then that way, in the room, it doesn't come across like, okay, this is chaos. On the one hand, I think the Steelers are frauds. And I think the Bengals kind of demonstrated that let's look out below right now. I do like Jake Browning. I don't like their offensive line.
Oh, so you're the guy. You're the guy who likes Jake Browning. You're the one.
Yeah, I like Jake Browning. I like Jake Browning. Okay. I'm still a Brown Lieber. But I don't believe in their offensive line or their defense. So that's it for them. So I think that the Ravens will be fine. They're going to be a playoff team. I think they'll still win that division. Here's the problem. Here's your reward for having faced the Bills and Lions already. Chiefs, Texans, Rams. Okay, so the Texans are right now. They have zero offense. They have less than zero offense. Their defense is still tough. You can't disregard the Chiefs as bad as they're struggling, and the Rams are a very strong team. Yeah,
and Arrowhead too. I mean, tough place to play. We're going to get to that game in a little bit, I'm sure. But for all the issues and all the hand wringing about Derrick Henry's fumbles, and rightfully so, and you had the really awful fumble by Lamar Jackson last night too. The defense gave up 6 yards a carry. The defense gave up 426 yards. And I know that they were missing a couple guys up front. Yeah. Like we said, Mike Green, first-round pick, playing at a really high level, still made a couple of big plays. You can't give up 426 yards in total offense. You just can't. I mean, that can't happen.
You can't. They are facing one of the great running games. They are without Mandabuke, as you said, Van Noy. Vaporware Alexander, forget him. He's never coming back. I'm not super worried about that because I saw them out physical the Bills.
Right.
And the Browns are a physical team, and they were able to out physical them. They've got to get to the bye at 3-3, and they have to figure out what they're doing with Henry, because they've shown in the past if they have depth, they can adjust on defense. They can figure out a way of eliminating these flaws.
For sure. Let's fast forward here to week 4 and the circuit game, but we are taking the primetime matchup off the board because I think we're both going to have eyes on Cowboys and Packers. Hell, maybe we should sit down and watch that game and have the nightcap recap together, even though we're both writing columns. We're both going to have eyes on Cowboys, Packers. A lot of drama there. I just almost can't wait to see if Micah Parsons goes off. The constant panning of the Sunday Night Crew cameras into the owner's box to get Jerry Jones's reaction. I almost can't wait to see that. But circlet game, what do we got?
I picked, I want to keep a wide berth on other things. We joked earlier about the worst 3-0 defending Super Bowl champions in NFL history, the Philadelphia Eagles. How about the worst 3-0 team ever to completely blow out two of their opponents, the Indianapolis Colts? Now, of course, I'm always being facetious with that. Colts are demonstrating they're a pretty strong team overall. Miss me forever with Daniel Jones is good now. That is false. That is not a real thing. Daniel Jones is exactly as good as the Cardinals, which is not good. But good supporting cast around him, sturdy veteran line, sturdy veteran defense, winning the games they're supposed to win. Going up against the Rams in Los Angeles, I believe the Rams are 4.5-point favorites. Now, whatever you might think about the Colts, would you take the Colts plus 4.5 in that game?
Yeah, I think I'm taking the points.
Oh.
I think I'm taking the points. I'm not ready to, put on my Daniel Jones fan club hat quite yet. But the dude is checking all the boxes, right? And
my God, he's checking the boxes. He's literally standing there checking boxes. Like he's going click, click, and the Dolphins pass rush and can't get to him. And Brian Callahan's on the sideline looking at his play sheet like, what do you do when you're at the 48-yard line? Is that field goal range? And Jones is back there, what do I have to do when I go home? Anyway, sorry, go on. Yeah, you're patient. I see you patiently waiting through this rant. Go on.
You have Michael Pittman Jr., you have Alec Pierce, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have an offensive line that he never had in New York. Yes, he had Saquon Barkley. He never had anything else. He has the pieces. He has 816 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's the biggest differentiator for me, because what dogged him in New York was the putrid offensive line that they've spent 15 years trying to build, and they're still trying to look at the blueprint and understand the directions like it's an IKEA piece of furniture, how to build an offensive line, and they still can't figure it out. He doesn't have those issues in Indianapolis. He has Shane Steichen, who understands quarterback play, at least to a degree. Yeah, I'll take the Colts with the 4.5. And heck, I think Daniel Jones can play them into a division title, because I don't believe in any of these other 3 teams. I don't even believe in the Colts, quite frankly. I don't believe in the AFC South, but they're undefeated. They're getting the best quarterback play. They have the best offensive line.
Right. There is that level where it's like, since I disbelieve the entire division, I disbelieve Daniel Jones equally, and therefore I think they can win. And that's fine. That's fair. It looks like we'll know more. This is the game with the wedge issue as to how for real you think they are. By the way, have you ever tried to put together a piece of IKEA furniture?
Dude, my daughter's the dresser drawers where she keeps her clothes. I mean, they're not quite bow done, but they're not level.
It's like a Pee-wee's Big Adventure type thing where there are all these weird
kind of punch the bottom of the drawer back up into place every time you put the laundry back in there. Yes, I loathe IKEA furniture. If I could sell just a few more Substack subscriptions, maybe I could afford to have somebody come to my house and build it for me.
Or just buy non-IKEA. Just buy non-IKEA. Scientific fact proven, statistics have shown 97% of American divorces begin at IKEA.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it because of what happens on the bedroom displays? Are people lying?
It's because of what happens when one spouse tries to put together the piece of furniture and fails and turns to the other spouse and they begin sort of snipping each other. Or when you're in IKEA and you're trying to follow the arrows and you start getting lost. And then, shouldn't you stop and ask for directions? I'm not going to ask for directions in IKEA. Where are the meatballs? We just want to get to... No, I don't want to get the meatballs. Trust me.
Yeah, you wind up in the warehouse. You're trying to get to the meatballs. You wind up in the warehouse for all of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that too. You have to go to the warehouse. 30 years of marriage. 30 years of marriage, one trip to IKEA. Yeah. And it almost came crashing down. That's
good marriage maintenance by you.
Yeah, no IKEA.
So when I worked at a previous outlet, we would get, publicists would send us product. Say, hey, here's this cool product. Talk about it on the podcast, or all these sort of things. I had a publicist send me I believe it was $2,500 or $3,000 NFL Blitz arcade, the actual arcade game that they have in the arcade. I spent about an hour trying to build the thing. This was about maybe 4 years ago. The pieces are still sitting in the corner of my office. 2 of the pegs are connected, but nothing else. So if anybody knows how to build these things, and you want to make $50, I'll ship it to your house and you can build it and you can drive it over with your truck. How's that sound?
We'll have a contest and the winner gets the partially built NFL Blitz. So, talk to your neighbors. Somebody will take that off your hands. I mean, that's an NFL Blitz console.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I probably would have splurged to hire a contractor to put it together for me.
In the perfect world, it's sitting right here as part of the backdrop for the podcast, and then afterwards, as it's loading, play the video game. It'd be fun.
Absolutely. A couple more subscriptions to Matt's Inside the Hashmarks, and he may be able to hire a contractor to come and put together his NFL Blitz arcade game. So we have a goal here on the Substack. Okay, member supported, independent journalism. This is your chance. Paid subscriptions. If we get to a certain number of paid subscriptions, maybe we'll see it in the back there, and we'll get to we'll watch Matt play, and I will comment on his style.
We could do a play-by-play. It'd be great. It'd be a great segment. It'd be a great bit for the pod. My circular game. We go to Arrowhead and Chiefs-Ravens.
Yeah.
It's the big one. And this is the monster that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can't slay in January, but they get the opportunity to drive the stake through the hearts of this year's Chiefs team in their building, coming off a brutal loss at home on Monday night, a short week. It doesn't matter. They go in there, and they're only going to have so many chances at this, right? Because I think that both of these teams, I think the Ravens are still the class of the AFC North, as you said. I think that the Chiefs, the metamorphosis of the Chiefs, when they get Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Taquan Thornton all on the field at the same time, it's going to induce whiplash from saying, oh, the Chiefs dynasty is over, they're done, to this being one of the most prolific, explosive passing offenses in the sport come November, December, January. This is the chance to make all of that irrelevant if you're Baltimore. Don't screw it up. Go in there, get the upset, change the narrative, change the page, because at 1-3, I don't even think Andy Reid and the Chiefs are coming back from that in a conference that has the Bills and has the Ravens and has the Chargers.
Right. And somebody's going to be 1-3, which is shocking at the end of that one. And when you say you're not coming back from that, you're not coming back from that and running a gauntlet to the Super Bowl. And that becomes very hard for both of those teams, where if you say to the Ravens, okay, your reward for all this will be at Arrowhead, at Buffalo, that's a problem. The Chiefs, if you turn to them and say, if you mess this up, now you're a wild card. So you're going to have to do some goofy at Indianapolis, at Baltimore, whatever. It just makes we're going to pull ourselves together at the right time. It makes that even harder.
Mike, what's coming up on the Two Deep Zone?
Mailbag. I just had to edit a bunch of things. I have to finish them about Jaxson Dart now being the starting quarterback. People had a lot of Saints questions, which was weird, but we're doing it. Eagles questions, philosophical questions. It's a multi-day mailbag. Let's put it that way. What do you got coming up?
Can't wait. Friday mailbag as well. So if we have a lot of people in the room, if your question kind of overflows from Mike's mailbag, fire it my way at Between the Hashmarks, because I'll reach out to NFL scouts and executives, agents, get their thoughts on the biggest storylines around the league. It's a Friday tradition unlike any other at Between the Hashmarks. So that's coming up on Friday. And then, of course, 4 Downs on Monday. I don't know how an NFL Sunday can top what we just saw in week 3, Mike, but it's going to be fun to watch the league try, right?
Next Sunday starts at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Long day.
Yeah. Long day.
I might have an extra pour on Sunday.
Yeah, I will not be having a pour with you. Calling it right now. I'm not doing Sunday night this time. Not with that on the schedule. But we will still have lots and lots of fun.
He's Mike Tanier. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Be sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. It's mandatory reading every Monday. My tradition is my daughter gets on the school bus, drop my son at daycare. I get my coffee at the coffee shop, and I sit down and I walk through before going with my day. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. Be sure you can follow me on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo NFL, at Matt Lombardo NFL on Threads. Be sure to check in on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe at Matt Lombardo 975 and Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well. Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I love the interaction with the folks. I'm glad everybody could join us. We might make this the new normal for the podcast. It went so well. It was so much fun. We'll see you from here.
Yep, absolutely. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.